Hello friend. So glad you're here tonight. Get comfortable, pull the covers up, and let the day loosen its grip. There's nowhere else you need to be. Before we begin, a small request. Most of the people listening tonight aren't subscribed. If this channel has ever helped you drift off, take a moment to subscribe and tap the like button on tonight's video. Both are free, they take 2 seconds, and they help this channel more than you'd think. And you can always change your mind later. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I love reading them. Tonight's question is a quiet one. How did gold miners actually sleep night after night without insulation? The answer is slower and stranger than you might expect, and every piece of it is real. There is nothing to do here and nothing to remember. If you fall asleep before the answer is finished, that is exactly how this is meant to work. Settle in and let your breathing slow down. One more thing before we begin. I'm also a co-founder of a sleep app, built to be the most affordable one out there. No ads, ever. Just sounds and stories made to help you sleep. It may not be released yet as this video goes up, but if you're watching a little later, it might be out by now. Just search for it. It should be easy to find. It works on iPhone, Android, and everything in between. Downloading it is the best way to support this channel. Gold miners slept in canvas tents during the Klondike Gold Rush, the rough fabric providing little insulation against the cold. Many of them lived in similar canvas towns, such as Canvas Town on the south bank of the Yarra River during the Australian Gold Rush. These makeshift homes offered scant protection from the elements, with the wind whistling through the thin walls at night. Their beds were often little more than blankets spread out on the hard ground, a far cry from modern comforts. The Red Onion Saloon, established in 1898 as a bordello for lonely miners, stood as a stark reminder of the solitude and isolation they endured. Despite the harsh conditions, they found ways to create a sense of community, sharing stories and laughter under the starlit sky before retreating to their tents for a restless sleep. Their breaths misted in the frigid air, each exhale a visible reminder of the chill that permeated their bones. The flickering light of lanterns cast long, dancing shadows across the tent walls, creating an eerie atmosphere as they huddled together for warmth. The constant hum of conversation and laughter was a futile attempt to drown out the howling wind, which seemed to seep into every crevice of their temporary dwellings. Each night brought with it a sense of trepidation, knowing that sleep would be fleeting and the cold unforgiving. Their woolen blankets, damp from condensation, did little to ward off the biting cold that crept in through the tent flaps. The rough canvas beneath their bodies offered no cushion against the unyielding earth. Each slight movement sent a shiver through their weary limbs, as if the very air was alive with frost. A faint smell of smoke and dampness permeated the tents, a constant reminder of the harsh reality they faced. In the chill of the mining camps, Chinese miners donned traditional working robes, a simpler choice than the trousers or jeans worn by others. The robes were practical, easy to move in during long days of labour. They did not provide much warmth against the cold nights, but they were comfortable and familiar. Each morning, these men would rise from their simple beds, the fabric of their robes rustling softly as they began their day. The robes would have been worn over many layers, an attempt to keep some heat in. As they worked, the sound of their movements was muted by the fabric, a steady rhythm amidst the clangor of tools against rock. Their robes often bore the marks of wear and tear, small patches sewn by hand to extend their use. A faint scent of smoke lingered from the campfires where they were mended. The soft glow of lanterns cast long shadows as they moved, the light catching on the loose threads that dangled like tiny icicles. As night fell, the robes would billow slightly in the wind, providing little barrier against the encroaching chill. The robes were made of coarse cotton, woven in broad strokes that allowed for quick repairs. The sleeves were wide and long, brushing against the cold ground as the miners squatted to chip away at the earth. The collars were high and loose, offering a pocket of warmth around the neck. Over time, the fabric darkened with sweat and dust, blending in with the muted tones of the mining camp. In the cold of the mining camps, European miners donned loose-fitting trousers to brave the chill. They often wore Levis jeans, a durable choice for their rugged work. These pants allowed them a comfortable range of motion, essential in the cramped spaces they inhabited. Over these, they pulled on heavy mining boots, designed to protect their feet from injury. The clanking of metal buckles against the hard ground became a familiar rhythm, echoing through the camp as they walked. Despite the cold, they found comfort in the simple act of dressing for work, each piece of clothing serving its purpose. The miners knew that their attire was not just about warmth, but also about safety and functionality. The denim fabric rubbed gently against their skin as they moved, offering a sense of resilience and familiarity. The leather uppers of the boots creaked softly with each step, molding to the shape of their feet over time. A woolen shirt tucked into the waistband of the trousers provided an extra layer of insulation, its collar dampening the chill that swept in through the unsealed seams of the tents. The brim of a worn felt hat shaded their eyes from the harsh light reflecting off the snow-covered ground. The coarse denim trousers absorbed the sweat from their labour, keeping them dry beneath the cold exterior. The woolen shirt's lanolin oils warded off moisture, maintaining its warmth even when damp. The felt hat's brim was notched and bent from years of use, its shape contoured to shield against the glare. Each breath they took in the frigid air was visible, condensing into a frosty mist before their eyes. Placer mining was done in various ways during those times. Open pit mining was a common method, with miners digging large pits in the ground to extract gold from the soil. Alternatively, they used surface excavating equipment like shovels and picks to remove layers of earth. Tunneling equipment was also employed to reach deeper deposits, creating narrow passages beneath the surface. The work was demanding, often requiring them to spend long hours in the cold, dark tunnels. Despite the challenging conditions, they persevered, driven by the hope of finding gold. After a day's work, they would retire to their makeshift camps, where the sounds of shoveling and digging were replaced with the quiet rhythm of rest. The routine was simple, yet arduous, reflecting the reality of life in those mining camps. Their lanterns cast flickering shadows on the rough-hewn walls, the only light in the vast darkness. The sound of water dripping from the ceiling above was a constant companion, echoing through the silent tunnels. The air grew colder and thinner as they delved deeper, each breath a struggle against the biting chill. In the quiet moments between swings of their picks, they could hear the distant rumble of the earth shifting above, a reminder of the ever-present danger. Their hands, raw and calloused from hours of labour, gripped the rough stone walls for support as they navigated the narrow tunnels. The faint scent of damp earth filled their nostrils with each laboured breath, a constant reminder of their subterranean existence. Their boots sank into the loose gravel beneath them, each step echoing in the vast chambers they had carved out of the earth. In the stillness, the sound of their own heartbeats seemed to resonate off the dark walls around them. In the cool of the morning, miners would gather materials for their workday. They'd place soil, gravel, and small amounts of water into a pan, the substances clinking softly together. The water would chill their fingers slightly, but they were accustomed to such discomforts. They would carefully arrange these elements in their pan, ensuring everything was just right before beginning their task. Each day, this process became a familiar routine, as essential as the breaths they took. With each scoop of gravel, they knew the day's potential, hoping for the gleam of gold amidst the earthy mix. The steady rhythm of their panning would fill the air, a symphony unique to the mining camps. They would sift through the materials methodically, patiently awaiting any sign of treasure. This was their world, simple yet demanding, and they navigated it with quiet determination. Their hands would grow numb from the cold water and the constant motion of sifting through the gravel, but they barely noticed. The weight of the pan would become an extension of their arm, a familiar presence that guided them through each day's work. They would pause only to wipe the sweat from their brows or to take a sip of water, their movements economical and efficient. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting longer shadows, they would feel the heat on their backs, a stark contrast to the icy water in which their hands remained submerged. Their breaths would mist in the cool air as they bent over their pans, tiny clouds that lingered briefly before dissipating. The water in the pan would shimmer with iridescent flecks, teasing them with false promises of treasure. They would sometimes find smooth, flat stones among the gravel, keeping them aside as curiosities to be examined later. Each evening, their hands would ache slightly from the work, but they would look forward to the next day's dawn and the rhythmic dance of water and earth. The day began early for the miners of Summit County, the first light of morning breaking around 7:00 a.m. as they started their daily routine in the cold mountain air. They would rise from their simple beds, the wooden frames creaking softly under their weight. The chill of the morning would seep through the thin walls of their cabins, a stark reminder of the winter that still held the land in its grasp. Their breaths would mist in the frigid air as they donned their heavy coats and gloves, the fabric rough against their skin. The sound of footsteps crunching on the frozen ground would accompany them as they made their way to the mines, the silence of the morning broken only by the occasional call of a bird. The world around them was still waking up, the trees bare and the sky pale with the dawn's early light. Their boots would leave imprints in the fresh snow, each step carrying them closer to another day of hard work. Their hands, already calloused from years of labour, would fumble with the cold metal buckles on their boots. A thin layer of ice would form on their beards as they walked, each breath a puff of steam into the crisp air. The silence of the morning would be accompanied by the distant hum of the mine's machinery, a constant reminder of the day's impending toil. Their hearts would beat steadily, both from the chill and the anticipation of another long day ahead. In the rugged hills of Nevada County, during the heyday of the California Gold Rush, there lived a man named Edward Coleman. Born in 1830 and passing away in 1913, he was an American mine manager, a role that carried significant responsibility in those wild days. The miners who toiled alongside him were nearly all Americans themselves, many having travelled westward with dreams of striking it rich. Coleman's presence wasn't limited to managing the mines, he also served as president and superintendent, overseeing the complex operations that kept the camps running. In this world without insulation or modern comforts, the cold nights were a constant companion, yet they pressed on, their lives interwoven with the relentless rhythm of the creeks where they sought gold. The miners would huddle around meagre campfires under the vast night sky, the flames flickering in the chill breeze that swept down from the hills. Their breaths visible in the cold air, they warmed their hands on tin cups of strong coffee, the smell wafting through the encampment. The rhythmic clinking of picks against rocks echoed through the valley as they laboured under the dim light of oil lamps, shadows dancing on the rough-hewn walls of their makeshift shelters. Their rough hands, calloused from years of toil, grasped the warm cups with a familiar comfort. The oil lamps cast long, dancing shadows across their weathered faces, illuminating lines etched by time and labour. The coffee's bitter warmth was a temporary respite from the biting cold that seeped into their bones. In the stillness of night, the distant howl of coyotes echoed through the valley, a haunting reminder of the wilderness that surrounded them. In the chill of a morning on Coleman Creek, they woke to the day's first light filtering through the trees. They had hurried here, driven by the promise of gold. The discovery by A.E. Coleman drew them like a magnet, their hearts pounding with hope and determination. Their breaths misted in the cold air as they prepared for another long day of work. They ate simple meals, cooked over open fires, the smell of smoke clinging to their clothes. The rhythm of their lives was dictated by the sun and the seasons, each day blending into the next. Despite the harsh conditions, there was a sense of camaraderie among them. They shared stories around the fire, their voices echoing in the quiet nights under the stars. Their hands, calloused and rough from the relentless toil, grasped their tools with familiarity. The earth beneath them, once untouched, now yielded its secrets slowly, requiring patience. Their shadows lengthened as the sun dipped low, signaling the approach of another night's rest under the heavy blankets. Their muscles ached from days past, but they found solace in the warmth of their hands cupped around steaming mugs. The wind rustled through the leaves above, a soft lullaby that marked time passing. They could taste the grit of the day on their tongues as they swallowed their last bites. The creek's steady hum was their constant companion, its icy water soothing their weary feet. Their blankets were damp from the morning dew, but they wrapped them tighter around their bodies to keep warm. They could feel the weight of the day's labour in their bones, a deep fatigue that only sleep could relieve. Their eyes grew heavy as the campfire's glow faded into embers. The silence was broken only by the distant hoot of an owl, a comforting sound that signalled the end of another long day. The year 2018 brought a familiar pattern to the NUGT chart, echoing previous year's trends. Gold miners, tucked away in their camps, were oblivious to these financial fluctuations. The harsh conditions of their environment dictated a simple routine. They huddled together for warmth, using what little insulation they had. The nights were cold, and the sounds of nature filled the air, offering no comfort from the outside world. Their focus remained on survival, unaware of the potential setups traders were eyeing in the financial markets. Their breaths misted in the air as they sat around the small fire, trying to conserve their limited fuel. The wind howled outside their makeshift shelter, driving the snow deeper against the walls. They shared stories and laughter to keep spirits up, but the chill seeped into their bones nonetheless. Each day was a struggle to find enough wood to feed the fire and keep them alive. Their hands ached from the cold as they gripped their mugs, trying to warm them up. The taste of smoke clung to their clothes and hair, a constant reminder of their circumstances. Their feet were numb within their warm boots, but they knew better than to remove them. Every movement was slow and deliberate, conserving energy and heat in the frigid air. The embers of the fire cast a faint glow on their faces, the only light in the darkness. The silence between their stories was filled with the soft crunching of ice under their boots as they shifted for comfort. Their eyelids felt heavy from the lack of sleep and the constant cold. The scent of pine from the burning wood provided a fleeting sense of familiarity amidst the desolation. Miners often slept on mattresses stuffed with leaves, a simple solution to the night's chill. They would gather armfuls of these nature-provided cushions, careful to choose only the driest and most comfortable. The sound of crunching leaves beneath their weight was a soothing lullaby as they settled in for the night. A thin blanket might cover them, offering little warmth but some protection from the cold. Their bodies would huddle together for heat, creating a living quilt of sorts. In the distance, the sound of rushing water or the occasional howl of the wind would whisper through their makeshift bedrooms. The rhythm of the camp, with its gentle snoring and soft murmurs, would lull them into a deep sleep despite the lack of modern comforts. Their breaths would mist in the chilly air, mingling with the scent of pine needles and earth. The weight of their bodies on the leaves would create small dips, moulding the mattress to their forms like a natural memory foam. A stray spark from the dwindling fire might occasionally illuminate their faces, casting fleeting shadows that danced across their closed eyelids. The moonlight filtering through the canopy above would bathe them in a soft, silvery glow, a comforting presence throughout the night. Their hands would tuck themselves beneath their chins for warmth, fingers interlacing with the rough fabric of their clothing. The gentle swaying of the trees overhead would rock them like a cradle, sending them deeper into slumber. A faint taste of smoke lingered on their tongues from the evening's fire, mingling with the sweetness of the surrounding forest. Their bodies grew heavy and still, as if merging with the earth beneath them. In the mining camps of Nevada, bottle houses offered a unique solution to the shelter needs of miners. They were constructed from glass bottles, an innovative use of discarded materials. The cold nights of the desert could be harsh, but these structures provided some insulation against the chill. The sound of wind whistling through the empty bottles was a familiar lullaby for those who slept within their walls. Miners would retire to their bottle homes after long days of labor, seeking respite from the elements. The glass surfaces reflected the dim light of lanterns, casting a soft glow over the small spaces. In these makeshift dwellings, they found a sense of comfort and security amidst the rugged terrain. The gentle clinking of bottles against each other as the miners moved inside created a rhythmic sound that was almost soothing. The curvature of the glass provided a subtle warmth, trapping heat within the structure during the night. The thick layers of bottles helped to muffle the distant howls of coyotes, creating an illusion of safety. Despite their simple construction, these bottle houses offered a sanctuary from the desert's vast and isolating expanse. The slightest breeze through the bottles created a soft hum that seemed to lull them into sleep. The uneven glass surfaces under their rough blankets offered an unexpected cushion, moulding to their bodies over time. As they drifted off, the gentle sway of the structure in the night wind became one with their dreams. In the morning, the first light filtered through the coloured bottles, painting the walls with a kaleidoscope of hues that signalled a new day. Miners often slept in shelters made from alternative materials like barrels and bottles due to lack of trees in desert regions. the harsh terrain provided little in the way of natural resources, so they had to make do with what they could find. Barrels stacked together formed a crude but effective barrier against the cold night air. Bottles were carefully arranged to create a makeshift window that let in faint light and muffled the sounds of the desert winds. Each evening, miners would gather their meagre supplies and settle into their improvised homes. The clinking of glass against glass was a familiar lullaby, signaling another night in this desolate land. Despite the hardships, they found solace in the simple routine, each day ending under the same sheltering sky. The sand beneath their rough beds would shift with each restless movement, providing a natural cushion that cradled them through the night. Each breath drawn in the cool air carried the faint scent of distant rain, offering fleeting comfort in an otherwise unforgiving environment. The occasional whisper of wind through the glass openings created a gentle white noise that lulled them into a deep sleep, undisturbed by the howls and rustles outside. Come morning, the first light would filter through the bottle window, casting long shadows and signaling another day to face. The weight of the sand above them provided a comforting pressure, like a blanket draped over their bodies. The glass bottles, with their imperfect edges, caught the starlight and cast soft, dancing patterns on the ceiling of their shelter. Each inhale brought with it the faint taste of dust, a constant reminder of their surroundings. As they drifted off to sleep, the rhythmic swaying of the barrels echoed the gentle rocking of a cradle. In the heart of the mining camps, miners found respite in family homes, boarding houses, or company housing. These structures provided shelter from the elements, a place to lay their heads after long days of labour. The family homes held memories and comforts, while the boarding houses buzzed with conversations among fellow workers. Company housing offered a uniformity, rows of similar dwellings standing against the backdrop of the mining landscape. Each miner had their own space, a bed or cot waiting for them at day's end. There was little insulation from the cold, so they wrapped themselves in blankets and huddled close to the fireplaces. The sound of muffled snoring filled the air as sleep took over, the exhaustion of the day melting away. The wood floors creaked softly under the weight of tired feet, while outside, the wind howled through the barren trees. A faint glow from an oil lamp cast long shadows across the rough-hewn walls. The scent of pine from the freshly chopped logs lingered in the air, mingling with the faint smell of dust and sweat. The ticking of a pocket watch was the last sound they heard before drifting off to sleep. The warmth from the fireplace gradually ebbed away, leaving a chill that crept into their bones. The rhythmic ticking of the watch marked time in slow, steady beats, lulling them deeper into sleep. The faint smell of coffee lingered in the air, reminiscent of mornings past and yet to come. A soft draught through the cracks in the wall carried the faintest whisper of night secrets. When families joined the miners in their camps, simple structures called slab huts were built to house them. These huts featured either bark or galvanized iron roofs, providing basic shelter against the elements. The bark roofs offered a rustic charm, their natural texture blending with the surrounding landscape. In contrast, the galvanized iron roofs had a distinct metallic sheen, reflecting the harsh sunlight during the day and the starlit sky at night. Despite these makeshift accommodations, the miners and their families endured the cold night with resilience, their bodies acclimated to the unforgiving conditions of the mining camps. The wind howled through the gaps between the slabs, creating a low whistle that sang them to sleep each night. The huts were often warmed by small fires built in makeshift hearths, the smoke curling upwards and escaping through the roof's crevices. Blankets were hung over doorways to block out drafts, their weight keeping the cold air at bay. Sleep was deep and undisturbed, a respite from the labour of the day. The earth beneath their mattresses of dried grass and hessian sacks provided a firm, cool support that eased the aches of the day. The rhythmic ticking of the bedding as it adjusted to their movements was a comforting lullaby in the darkness. Morning light filtered through the rough-hewn walls, casting long shadows that danced softly on their faces, signalling the start of another day. The woolen blankets draped over their bodies held the warmth of the fire, their rough texture a familiar comfort against the skin. The scent of wood smoke permeated the air, a constant reminder of the hearth that kept them cozy throughout the night. The occasional snore from a neighbouring hut served as a reassuring sign of life in the otherwise silent camp. As they rolled over, The rustling of the grass mattress echoed softly, a gentle whisper that welcomed them back to sleep. Sanitation was minimal in mining camps, leading to rampant disease such as dysentery and cholera. They slept on rough beds, often just thin blankets laid out on the cold earth. Disease spread quickly among the tightly packed tents and cabins. A cough or sneeze echoed through the camp, a constant reminder of the fragile health of their fellow miners. In the dim light of morning, they would wake to the sound of another miner's hacking cough. The harsh winds carried the stench of waste, an ever-present smell that permeated the air they breathed. They endured long nights of discomfort, their bodies aching from the cold and the constant battle against illness. Their throats were raw from the dust that filled the air each night as they slept. The ground beneath their thin blankets was hard and unyielding, offering little respite from the day's labour. Each breath brought with it a faint taste of decay, a grim reminder of their surroundings. Their eyes watered in the bitter cold, blurring the harsh reality that awaited them upon waking. Their blankets were coarse and worn, little defence against the biting cold that seeped into their bones. Breaths fobbed in the frigid air, condensing on the tent's damp canvas above. The constant chill numbed their fingers, making even the simplest tasks a struggle. Their bodies huddled together for warmth, each exhale mingling with another's, unable to escape the confined space. The faint glow of the distant fire provided scant comfort against the creeping darkness that filled their eyes. Their noses burned from the constant assault of ammonia and rot, each breath a struggle against the thick, cloying air. The thin fabric of their tattered clothes did little to shield them from the biting wind, leaving their skin raw and irritated. They could feel the dampness seeping into their very bones, a cold that seemed to come from within rather than without. During the gold rush of 1848, miners gathered from various ethnic backgrounds, each bringing their unique clothing traditions. The miner's attire was a reflection of his origins. Some wore sturdy woolens from Scotland, while others donned intricately woven garments from Mexico. These clothes were not chosen for elegance or craft, but for durability and warmth against the harsh mountain nights. Miners would often layer these items, creating makeshift insulation as they prepared to sleep in their rough-hewn camps. The sound of fabric rustling softly was a common lullaby among the weary miners. They would wrap themselves tightly in these layers, seeking what little comfort could be found in the cold, high-altitude air. The miners would feel the coarse wool of their blankets prickling against their skin, providing a rough yet familiar embrace. The weight of these layers pressed down on them, trapping body heat and creating a cocoon-like shelter. As they drifted off to sleep, the scent of campfire smoke clung to their clothes, mingling with the earthy smell of the surrounding wilderness. Their breaths would condense in the frigid air, creating a moist haze around their faces as they sought respite from the relentless chill. The miner's hands would become numb from the cold as he tried to tuck the edges of his blanket tightly around him. Each inhale brought a sting to his nostrils from the thin, frosty air. The distant hoot of an owl would echo through the valley, occasionally punctuating the silence. In the stillness, the weight of their worn-out boots felt like anchors, grounding them to the rugged earth below. Placer mining was the way they mined for precious minerals in stream beds. They often slept on rough, cold ground, with only a blanket or two between them and the earth. The sound of water flowing nearby was their constant companion, a steady rhythm that lulled some to sleep while keeping others alert. Their sleep was not always restful, as the hard ground did little to cushion their weary bodies. In the morning, they would wake up to the chill of the early day, already feeling the strain of another long day ahead. Yet, despite these harsh conditions, they endured, driven by the promise of gold beneath the surface. Their bodies ached from the unyielding surface beneath them, each pebble and rock digging into their flesh. The faint scent of damp earth filled their nostrils as they drifted off, the smell both comforting and unsettling. A thin layer of frost sometimes crept over their blankets in the night, melting away with the first light of dawn. Their dreams were often haunted by the relentless rush of water, mirroring the ceaseless toil of their waking hours. Their eyes would sometimes crust over with dirt and grime as they slept, leaving tiny trails of dust on their faces. The blankets, rough and coarse from years of use, provided little warmth against the biting wind. Small creatures, disturbed by the intruders, scurried beneath their makeshift beds, creating faint vibrations that echoed through the cold night. Their breaths misted in the air, visible puffs of warmth that quickly dissipated into the frigid atmosphere. Miners of the past found solace in the durable clothing designed by Levi Strauss, which evolved into modern workwear, including blue jeans. Their days were long and their nights were cold, but they had these sturdy garments to protect them. The sound of denim brushing against itself became a soothing rhythm in the quiet of the night. These miners would huddle together for warmth, the rough fabric providing a barrier against the chill. The blue jeans, once stiff and new, softened with time, becoming a comforting constant in their lives. They would remove their boots at the end of the day, the denim brushing against their bare skin as they prepared for sleep. The miners would curl up on their makeshift beds, the cold ground beneath them, but wrapped in the familiar embrace of Levi Strauss's design. The miners would tuck their hands into the pockets of their jeans, feeling the reassuring weight of small tools and keepsakes. The frayed hems of their pants brushed against the cold rocks beneath them, a subtle reminder of their resilience. As they lay on their backs, staring at the dark ceiling of their makeshift shelter, the denim would stretch slightly, allowing for a gentle give as they shifted in sleep. In the stillness of the night, the scent of wood smoke and worn denim lingered, a familiar aroma that signaled rest and safety. Their breaths rose in misty clouds, the denim absorbing the moisture and holding it close like a second skin. The buttons of their shirts pressed into their backs as they shifted, a subtle sensation that marked the passage of time. The seams of their jeans creaked softly with each movement, echoing through the quiet night like whispers of the day's work. The cold earth beneath them gradually warmed from their body heat, offering a gentle comfort against the harsher elements outside. In the mining camps of old, essentials were sold to meet the needs of the miners and their families. Food like fresh and salted meats, bacon, and hams was available alongside sugar, flour, and tea. Clothing to protect from the elements was also on offer. Tools of the trade included pans for puddling, picks, shovels, spades, and sturdy mining boots. Horses and cattle were provided with forage to keep them strong. Tobacco offered a moment of relaxation after a long day's work. The air was filled with the scent of pine wood fires and distant thunder as storms rolled in from the mountains. The earth beneath their feet was a maze of tunnels, carved by pickaxes, illuminated by flickering lanterns. Supplies were hauled up and down the mine shafts on ropes, often accompanied by the chatter of fellow miners. Each day's work ended with the soothing sound of water being drawn from wells, filling buckets for washing and drinking. The miners' muscles ached from the day's labour as they settled into their simple beds, the wooden frames creaking softly under their weight. Blankets made from rough wool provided scant comfort against the chill of the underground air. Lantern light flickered on the tunnel walls, casting long shadows that danced with each passing breeze. Above ground, the campfires burned low, their embers glowing like distant stars in the night sky. The miners' breaths misted in the chilly air as they drifted off to sleep, their dreams filled with the rhythm of pickaxes striking rock. The faint drip of water from the ceiling provided a steady metronome, marking time's passage. Lantern wicks burned low, casting dim light until extinguished one by one, leaving only darkness and quiet whispers echoing through the tunnels. In the chill of the night, miners faced harsh conditions that modern sleepers would find hard to comprehend. They lacked insulation, a luxury not available in their time. This absence, combined with the unforgiving cold, took a toll on their bodies. Dehydration was a constant companion as clean water was scarce. Illness often followed, claiming many due to the unsanitary conditions. The sound of coughs echoed through the camps at night, a grim reminder of the hardships they endured. Their routines were simple and demanding, with little time for rest. Every night brought another challenge, as they tried to find warmth in their makeshift beds. Their breath froze in the air as they huddled together for warmth. The thin canvas tents offered little protection from the bitter wind that howled outside. Every muscle ached from the day's labour, yet sleep was elusive. The flickering light of their lantern cast long, dancing shadows on the tent walls, the only distraction from the relentless cold. Their blankets, damp from the day's exertions, provided little warmth against the biting frost. Each breath they took was visible in the cold air, creating a fog that clung to their faces. The scent of wood smoke hung heavy, a reminder of the meager fire struggling to keep them warm. Despite their exhaustion, sleep remained an elusive friend, slipping away with each gust of wind that found its way through the tent's worn seams. Their limbs grew heavy with fatigue, yet the cold gnawed at their bones, keeping them awake. Each inhalation of frigid air burned their lungs, a constant reminder of their vulnerability. The rustling of the tent fabric above echoed like distant thunder, amplifying the howling wind's relentless assault. Their hearts pounded steadily, fueled by the primal instinct to endure as they braced themselves against the unyielding night. In winter, miners toiled in the rain and bitter cold, their bodies slowly chilled by the unforgiving elements. Damp conditions brought about hypothermia, a stealthy foe that crept into their bones, sapping their strength. The harsh winds howled around them, carrying with it an icy breath that cut through any meager layers of clothing they wore. The relentless rain pounded on their makeshift shelters, each drop a tiny drumbeat echoing the hardship of their lives. As their bodies grew colder, dysentery would often set in, adding another layer of discomfort to their already challenging existence. They huddled together for warmth, sharing what little they had, desperate to find some respite from the unyielding cold. Despite their best efforts, sleep did not come easily under such conditions, leaving them weary and worn each morning. Their teeth chattered incessantly, a rhythm as regular as the rain, as they tried to keep their jaws clenched against the cold. Their breaths misted in the air, turning into tiny clouds that dissipated before their eyes. The dampness seeped into their bones, a gnawing ache that refused to let go. They hugged their knees closer, trying to contain what little heat they had left. Their shivering limbs ached with each slow movement, as if the cold had solidified their blood. Their noses dripped uncontrollably, the wetness freezing to their upper lips in thin, brittle layers. The icy wind stung their cheeks like tiny needles, leaving behind numb patches that burned when they finally found a moment of stillness. Each blink felt heavier than the last, their eyelashes caked with frost that threatened to seal their eyes shut. In the chill of night, miners found themselves afflicted with illnesses that were all too common in those days. They knew well the discomfort of trachoma, an infection that caused their eyelids to turn inward, irritating and blinding them over time. The cold nights offered little relief from this ailment. Typhoid was another threat that lingered in the shadows of the mining camps. This illness, spread through contaminated food or water, brought with it fever and weakness. Their bodies, already worn down by the hard labour of mining, were left vulnerable to these diseases. Their eyes, once able to withstand the harsh sunlight of day, now blinked furiously against the dim lantern light. A dull ache lingered in their joints, a constant reminder of the unseen invaders within. The shivering that started in their shoulders would not subside, as if their very bones were weary of the relentless cold. Each breath taken became a struggle, the air heavy with an invisible enemy. Their fingers, once swift and precise in their tasks, now moved with a sluggishness that betrayed the fatigue coursing through their veins. The simple act of swallowing became a laborious endeavour, as if their throats were clogged with cotton. The once familiar smell of damp earth now seemed to carry an underlying hint of decay, heightening their sense of unease. The lanterns that once provided comfort in the dark now cast eerie shadows that danced at the edge of their vision, taunting them with a sense of menace. Their once hearty appetites now fled at the sight of food, leaving them with a gnawing emptiness that their bodies could not fill. The weight of their blankets felt like a burden rather than a comfort, as they tossed and turned in vain search for respite from the cold. Each bone in their body seemed to groan in protest with every slight movement, as if even the act of rest was an insurmountable task. Their dreams were plagued by dark figures and endless corridors, offering no solace from the waking world's torments. Many miners faced health issues and discrimination based on their ethnicity and wealth. They braved harsh conditions, often sleeping in makeshift tents or crude shacks that offered little protection from the cold. Racial prejudice added another layer of difficulty to their already challenging lives. Discrimination was a daily reality for many, affecting not just their work, but also their rest. The sound of the wind howling through thin fabric served as a reminder of the lack of insulation. These men endured long nights in cramped quarters, their bodies aching from the day's labour, Yet, despite the hardships, they persevered, finding solace in the routine of daily life and the shared experiences with fellow miners. Their breaths fogged up in the frigid air, condensing on the fabric above them like frost on a window. The ground beneath their thin mattresses was hard and unyielding, providing little comfort after hours of back-breaking work. Each gust of wind brought with it a chill that seemed to penetrate every layer of clothing, making sleep elusive. The faint glow from the nearby campfire did little to dispel the darkness or the sense of isolation they felt in those long, cold nights. Their noses tingled with the cold, numbing the tip ever so slightly with each breath. The scent of pine and smoke from the campfire lingered in the air, a fleeting comfort in the vast, empty wilderness. Each rustle of their fellow miners turning in their sleep sent shivers down their spines, as if the very sound carried the biting wind. Their eyes grew heavy with fatigue, yet the discomfort kept them on the edge of slumber, never fully succumbing to rest. In the heart of winter, miners would stir from their beds before dawn. They would don heavy coats and thick gloves, preparing for the chill outside. The snow would crunch under their boots as they made their way to work in the dark morning hours. Some would ride in carts or carriages, their breath misting in the cold air. Others would walk, their steps echoing through the quiet camp. The mines awaited them, unyielding in the face of harsh weather. They knew that inside the tunnels the cold would be constant and piercing. Yet they carried on, committed to their daily routine despite the missing comforts of warmth and insulation. Their fingers would tingle from the frost as they opened the mine doors, the hinges creaking with disuse. The air inside was stale and biting, like a breath held too long. Every movement echoed through the tunnels, the silence broken only by the distant drip of water on stone. Their lanterns cast long shadows, dancing on the walls as they walked deeper into the earth. Their breaths hung in the air like clouds, condensing into tiny icicles on their mustaches and beards. The lanterns flickered weakly, struggling to ignite in the thin oxygen of the depths. Each step was deliberate, careful not to disturb the loose rocks that littered the floor. The silence was palpable, a heavy blanket that muffled even the slightest sound. Their hearts pounded in their chests, each beat a distant drum, as they ventured further into the bowels of the earth. The air grew colder still, each exhale visible like smoke from a dying fire. Their fingers, numb from the cold, fumbled with the heavy tools they carried, the metal clanking softly against stone walls. Each breath became laboured, their bodies aching for the warmth of hearth and home. In the cold mornings of mining camps, miners would begin their day by gathering wood and kindling to build a fire. They would carefully stack the logs, ensuring there was enough to keep them warm throughout the morning's tasks. The crackle and pop of the flames were comforting sounds, breaking the chill of the air around them. As the fire grew, they would place their pots and pans over the heat, preparing for the day's meals. The warmth from the fire would slowly spread, making the space cozier as the morning progressed. Around them, the cold night was still visible in the frost that clung to the tents and cabins. Despite the lack of modern insulation, the routine of starting a fire brought a sense of normalcy to their mornings. The smoke from the fire would rise and dissipate into the crisp air, signalling the start of another day in the mining camp. The warmth of the fire would radiate through their hands as they held their mugs of coffee, slowly melting the frost that had formed on the tent flaps. The light from the flames would dance on their faces, casting long shadows across the snow-covered ground. Each inhale of smoke would fill their lungs with a sense of tranquility, knowing that the fire would keep them company until dawn. As the day began to break, the flickering embers would glow brighter, signaling the end of another peaceful night in the mining camp. The miners would huddle closer to the fire, their breaths visible in the cold air as they waited for the coffee to boil. They would take turns adding wood to the flame, keeping it steady and strong. The warmth would begin to thaw the frozen ground beneath them, creating a temporary sanctuary from the biting wind. As the sun started to rise, the fire's glow would reflect off the icicles hanging from the tent poles, casting a soft, ephemeral light on the miners' faces. In the stillness of night, they would retreat to their simple dwellings, a sanctuary from the harsh realities of daylight mining. The jeans they wore bore evidence of their labour, with large patches at the knees, a silent defence against the tearing demands of their work. These patches were not mere adornments, but vital shields, protecting against the constant wear and tear inflicted by the rocks and tools. The cold nights would set in, the air crisp and biting, yet they found solace within their rough-hewn shelters. Their breaths would fog up in the chilled air, a subtle reminder of the harsh conditions they endured daily. The sounds of the night would be their lullaby, the distant hoots of owls, the rustling of leaves underfoot, and the occasional snap of wood in the fireplace. These were the comforts they knew, the routines that brought a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos of their mining lives. The woolen blankets draped over their shoulders, worn thin from years of use, but still providing a meagre warmth against the encroaching cold. Their hands, calloused and rough from constant toil, would find relief in the simple act of holding a steaming cup of tea. The flickering light of the oil lamp cast long shadows across the earthen walls, creating a dance of darkness that was both mesmerizing and soothing. The scent of pine needles, collected earlier for bedding, filled the small space with a comforting smell, masking the faint whiff of damp earth beneath. John Lorne, a New Zealand gold miner and mine manager, was born on 4 November 1840 in Gwenap, Cornwall, England. He found himself in the rugged landscape of New Zealand's goldfields, where mining activity and management demanded his skill and vigilance. The dangers of the dark were ever present, as John and his team navigated the cold, unforgiving nights. Their routines were shaped by the harsh realities of their environment, with each sound echoing through the chilly air carrying significance and caution. The absence of modern comforts meant every detail was crucial for survival, from the materials they used to the careful steps they took in the dim light. Their lanterns cast long, flickering shadows on the tunnel walls, casting eerie silhouettes of tools and debris. Each breath visible in the chill air, their exhales misting into the darkness. The silence was broken only by the distant drip of water and the occasional rumble of the earth above. A wrong step could lead to disaster, each footfall carefully placed to avoid the hidden pitfalls beneath. Their hands cradled the lanterns, feeling the heat radiate through thin gloves. Breaths misted as they whispered plans in hushed tones, ears straining for distant echoes. Fingers traced worn picks and shovels, each tool a lifeline against the encroaching blackness. Steps slowed to a deliberate pace, boots sinking slightly into the damp earth, feeling for stability. Their eyes adapted to the dim light, discerning shapes in the gloom. The tunnel's damp air clung to their clothes, weighing them down with each laborious step. They felt the cold seep into their bones, numbing their fingers and toes. Their hearts pounded softly against their ribs, a quiet reminder of their constant vigilance. John Lorne passed away on the 29th of July 1905 at the age of 64. In this moment, the darkness outside the mining camps was a tangible presence. The night air held an unmistakable chill, as it always did during these late summer nights. Miners would huddle together in their tents, seeking what little warmth they could find from one another. The sounds of nature outside were both comforting and ominous. The rustling leaves, the distant howl of a wolf, and the faint creaks of the camp's wooden structures echoed through the night. Every step into the darkness was a risk, a reminder that the land could be as unforgiving as it was beautiful. The miners would light their oil lamps carefully, creating small pools of light to guide them through the inky blackness. The flickering flame of each lamp cast long, dancing shadows across the canvas walls, making the familiar seem alien. The smell of oil permeated the air, a constant reminder of the tenuous grasp on light. Each breath drawn in the chilly night seemed to carry a sense of foreboding, as if the very air whispered secrets best left unknown. A faint glow from a distant tent provided a lonely beacon, barely piercing the enveloping darkness. The faint glow of a lantern from another tent created a faint halo around the flap's edge, casting eerie shapes on the ground. The miners' breaths rose visibly in the cold air, condensing into small clouds that disappeared as quickly as they formed. A soft crunch underfoot echoed through the silent camp, each step careful and measured to avoid unseen hazards. The canvas walls seemed to close in slightly with every gust of wind, as if trying to shut out the darkness altogether. Gold rush miners came from almost every area of the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Pacific. In their pursuit of fortune, they ventured into the wilderness, braving the harsh realities of frontier life. The nights were long and dark, with no electric lights to guide them. They huddled together in makeshift cabins, seeking warmth against the biting cold. The sound of wind howling through the thin walls was a constant companion. Each night brought its own challenges, from the dangers lurking outside to the simple task of staying warm. Yet, they persevered, their dreams of gold fueling their resilience. They would gather around a single flickering oil lamp, its dim glow barely illuminating the cramped space. The smell of kerosene and smoke filled their nostrils, a familiar comfort amidst the unknown. A stove in the corner, fueled by precious firewood, offered a meagre warmth that barely kept at bay the biting frost creeping through the cabin walls. Their breaths misted in the chilled air, each exhale visible like a fleeting ghost. The oil lamp's flame flickered anxiously with every gust of wind, casting eerie shadows that danced on the rough-hewn walls. Outside, the forest silhouettes stood sentinel, their shapes barely discernible in the moonless night. Inside, the stove's embers glowed faintly, their heat struggling to penetrate the dense cold. Their eyes strained in the weak light, squinting at worn maps and faded letters from home. The cabin's timbers creaked under the weight of snow, echoing the miners' heavy sighs as they rolled into their blankets. A mug of tepid coffee, passed around to ward off sleep, was shared amongst them. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the distant hoot of an owl. In the heart of Mongolia, under the starlit sky, they worked as ninja miners, earning their name from the distinctive bowls they used for panning gold. These bowls, resembling the shells of teenage mutant ninja turtles, were their trusted tools in the cold nights. The darkness was not a deterrent but a companion, guiding their hands as they patiently sifted through the gravel, hoping to strike gold. Their breaths visible in the chilly air, they would huddle around small fires, seeking warmth and light in the otherwise desolate landscape. The rhythmic swishing of the bowls in the water was a soothing lullaby, echoing softly in the stillness of the night. Each scoop brought them closer to their goal, as they diligently searched for the glint of gold that could change their lives. In this remote corner of the world, they found solace and purpose in their simple yet arduous task. Their calloused hands, toughened by the elements, deftly manipulated the bowls, feeling for the subtle weight shift of gold. Each grain of sand, each pebble, they knew intimately, as if whispering secrets from ancient times. The moonlight cast long, dancing shadows on the water's surface, illuminating their work with a gentle glow. Their world narrowed to the rhythmic motion and the subtle variations in the gravel, seeking that one golden spark. The cold water numbed their fingertips, making each touch a delicate dance with the unknown. The gravel, slick and damp, clung to their gloves, leaving tiny patterns that spoke of patience. Every pause in their motion allowed the moonlight to reveal fleeting shadows within the bowl, hinting at what might lie beneath. Each breath taken between scoops filled their lungs with air that tasted faintly of the earth's secrets, carried on the wind through the barren landscape. In the harsh landscape of mining camps, they toiled from dawn until dusk, their bodies aching and hearts heavy with fatigue. 6 days out of every week, they labored under the unforgiving sun or the dim light of lanterns in narrow tunnels. The earth yielded its treasures reluctantly, and their hands bore witness to the struggle with calluses and scars. At the end of each day, they trudged back to their modest dwellings, weary limbs moving on autopilot. Their beds were simple affairs, often no more than a pallet of straw or old blankets on a wooden frame. The cold nights offered little respite. The thin barriers between them and the icy air did little to keep out the chill. Yet, despite the discomfort, they found solace in the quiet rituals of their evening routine. The gentle hum of conversation as they shared stories from the day, the subtle rustle of bedclothes being smoothed out one last time before sleep claimed them. Their eyelids grew heavy as the flickering light of the oil lamp cast long shadows across the rough-hewn walls. A faint draught slipped in through a crack in the window, carrying with it the scent of pine and distant rain. Their breaths slowly deepened, each exhale visible in the chill air. In the quietude, the faint creaking of their beds became the only rhythm, a comforting lullaby that accompanied them into sleep. Their eyes closed with a soft click, like the latch of a worn-out door. The rough woolen blankets held them gently, like an old friend's embrace. The dim light of the lamp faded to nothing, as if the world outside their dwellings had gone to sleep too. Their breathing became slow and steady, like the first drops of rain on a parched earth. If miners stayed in a spot for a while, they would build huts usually made out of bark and wood, providing a humble refuge from the elements. They would gather materials from the surrounding forests, carefully selecting sturdy branches to create the framework. The sound of axes chopping wood would fill the air as they worked together, their rhythmic movements methodical and soothing. These huts were not elaborate, but they offered shelter from the cold night winds that would otherwise howl through the mining camps. They would lay out simple bedrolls made of blankets and furs, the only insulation they had against the biting chill of the mountain air. The hut would grow quiet as each miner settled into his bedroll, the day's labours finally allowing them to rest. The scent of pine and earth filled the small space, a comforting reminder of their days in the forest. A single candle flickered near the entrance, casting long shadows that danced on the walls as the wind outside picked up. The miners would wrap themselves tightly in their blankets, seeking warmth from one another's bodies. Each breath became visible in the cool air, a soft mist that slowly dissipated into the darkness. Their bodies grew heavy with exhaustion, each muscle aching from the day's toil. The hut creaked softly in the wind, its simple construction swaying gently like a cradle. They listened to the distant rumble of the mountain, a familiar lullaby that signaled the end of another long day. Slowly, their eyes closed, and they drifted off to sleep, their breaths synchronized with the rhythm of the earth. Old Sacramento was a gathering point for miners, a place where they would rest before setting out towards the mother lode. They would huddle together in tents or simple cabins, seeking what warmth they could find amidst the cold nights of the Sierra Nevada. The sounds of distant laughter and quiet conversations filled the air as they prepared for sleep. Blankets made from rough wool were their only insulation against the chill. Each miner would lay down on a bedroll, trying to find comfort in the hard ground beneath them. As the evening wore on, the campfire's embers would flicker and die, leaving only the faintest of glows to guide their slumber. The scent of wood smoke lingered in the air, a faint reminder of the day's warmth. A soft breeze rustled the leaves overhead, casting whispering shadows on their faces. The rhythmic sound of distant owls hooting blended with the occasional snore from a nearby tent. As the night deepened, a sense of quiet unity settled over the camp, each miner lost in their own dreams of the day's adventures and the promise of gold. Their breaths misted in the cool air as they slipped into sleep, each one a tiny cloud disappearing into the night. The lantern's glow cast long, dancing shadows across their faces, creating fleeting patterns that would never be seen again. A soft layer of dew began to form on their blankets, another defense against the chill. The distant sound of a wolf howling echoed through the valley, a primal reminder of the wilderness they had chosen to call home. And that is how gold miners found their rest night after night, long before our own comforts existed. Their nights are over now, and yours is just beginning. Sleep well,